Greetings in the name of Ngayami and Yah Santiwa. All that is good and great, all that is blessed and beautiful, all that is creative and conscious, and all that is positive and possible. May the warm sun rays greet you each and every morning, and may your day always be full of joy. Hotep, I am Adiso Olabayo Pancoli, your host to Mind Vibes, Thoughts from a Curious Mind, a bi-monthly podcast series exploring and examining social phenomena then and now. Now, this one is a fun one, and there's no real earth-shattering advice that I'm going to give here, but it was just something that I happened to catch when I was watching the OJs, and they were singing "Forever Mine," but they had this real these gold suit on, and I thought it was just fascinating, And I did something similar to this in my other episode of Mind Vibes, where I talked about this power of the soul energy of black folks. So in this one, I'm going to deal with, I call Black Energy Through Style, what blacks seem to have in abundance. But before we go there, hit that like button, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Now, let's deal with black energy through style, what blacks seem to have in abundance. Right? Quote unquote. No. See, you got to understand, stepping is not just a dance. It's a culture. It's the way we live. Stepping in the name of love, R. Kelly. Now, again, I was saying that, and I talked to my queen, and we were dealing with how Tavares did She's Gone, that was written by her Oates, and how they put such power to it, and how they just did it. But then I was looking at, some of the old 70s stuff, and even with the doo-wop, and I was seeing how stylish they was, even with Jimi Hendrix and his style. So let's talk about style. It's just what blacks have an abundance of. From the time of our freedom from being shackled and tied to the land, not only did we demonstrate our creativity, imagination, and spontaneity, we also gave the world style and flair. From the attitude of salsa dancing from Puerto Rico to the funk in New York's dance club, grooving to Ghana's high life to the slow beat of reggae. Whenever we come together, we demonstrate our creative vibes. Even going to church on Sunday, our Sunday morning church gatherings, we come out in style. You go to church and you see, those sisters with those nice hats, and they dressed in their Sunday best. I mean, their pocketbooks, and particularly back in the early 60s and 50s and stuff, maybe early 70s and stuff. I would see these beautiful black women, man. I mean, they would dress to the nine. Looking at our singers and musicians from the Roaring 20s, the 50s doo-wop groups, the soul 60s, to our performers of disco 70s, they brought that certain spirit, a panache to their lyrics and their clothing. Though we are still not fully free psychologically, but when it comes to our artistic expression, we let our personalities shine through. There is something magical that happens whenever we let our imagination go when it comes to fashion, movement, and rhythms. You see it. You could see it. I mean, it just, black folks just oozed that. That whole thing with Saturday Night Fever, Saturday Night Live with the Bee Gees, with what is his name? What's his name? Travolta. The dancing and all that. Yeah, just sit down, boy. You smack yourself down, man. But I did a whole thing about disco, dealing with how they really wanted to try to shut that down, but it was black folks that really made that period. Even in the doo-wop area, we made it. I remember my friend Dan Drumer remarking on Eddie Murphy's film Harlem Nights. He was expressing his admiration on the clothing, the style, the cadence in their movements. Even with our language, our speech, there is a certain element of flair that is pronounced. Coming up with new words and inventing new forms of speech that gives, again, flair to whatever we say. Although, again, this is the dark spot of our community. The hustlers, prostitutes, and pimps. They were and still are a pariah of the community. But it is through them we saw fashion, the need to be seen by wearing loud and colorful clothes, to stand out as many of the Caribbean people did, and perhaps still do, with their flowery shirt and stylized hat that seemed to inject a liveliness to their surroundings. Now again, I remember, back in the 70s, in fact, the film Superfly, both Superfly and Mac, a lot of black brothers wanted to dress like Priest in the Superfly, man. He was just Superfly with his style, Blacks just simply turned ordinary clothing into some form of life by putting much energy and creativity to them. There is a history with how we view clothing and all the accessories to it that comes out of the African culture itself. One need only to look at the colorful, bright clothing along with the jewelries and gems they adorn themselves with, and right away you can see the energy, yet the comfortability that we have wearing them. Many of the men in Africa will not hesitate to wear a pink agbada adorning their black skin. There is just so much vibrancy that shines through, and even a lot of the pimps and the hustlers back then, they had their pink suits, and they had their canary suits and stuff. I mean, and ride those what they used to call their hogs and stuff, man. Yeah, I mean they were very colorful and very colorful personalities, pariahs as they were and still are. Many years ago, my queen and I were taking salsa lessons, and man, just the pure energy, the flair, the attitude that came across was amazing. Even when you see it in the Brazilian samba, generates such vitality. Like I said, and it's kind of nice that you have YouTube, because people, put stuff up, and you get to see what yesterday was. And as I looked at the OJs, the Manhattans, Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, the Temptations, Ohio Players, or the Supremes, all of these creative and talented performers knew what we refer to as showmanship. And although Earth, Wind, and Fire or the Parliament was not unified in their dress, nevertheless, they also showed that they had style. and with that put their energy to their talents, but also their imagination and expressions. Again, when you looked at Jimi Hendrix, now you look at Noel Redding and the other player, yeah, they wear those nice, colorful and flowery stuff. But when you saw Jimi Hendrix wear it, I mean, he was a persona in and of itself. But when you saw him with these clothes, I mean, he just carried it, Even, I'm not that much on hip hop, but even when you see brothers and sisters up there, with their hats and stuff, there's still a certain style that they have. This is not a real message here, just an observation, as was with my earlier Mind Vibe episode when I dealt with the power of soul, the energy of black people. This is merely my take on a vibrant people who, although still living in an unforgivable world towards their very essence, still finds a way to thrive with their expression, imagination, creation, and just bravado. Through our music, our clothing, our style, again, the flair that we bring demonstrates our willingness to live always with the power of joy. And perhaps that is what is at the heart of why we have so much attitude with our artistic representation. Even when we are playing the blues, our joy shows through. It is perhaps that power, that nuance that makes whatever we do as a people so dynamic and spiritual. In my recent conversation with my queen, she asked a profound question. What? She asked. What influence has any other group given to the American experience itself? And this is something my good brother and friend Dan Juba, talks about. What we did, our contribution, what influence we had on the American psychic. And although East Indians has given us meditation, which helped usher in a new form of thought in the late 60s, early 70s, and during the 90s, Asian cultures have introduced a medical treatment by way of acupuncture. But both of these are relatively recent with the American history. However, when looking at the black culture in and of itself, from the days even on the cotton field, there were certain ideas and spirit that we brought with us from the continent and embellished upon with our experience in this country that has influenced much within the American society. Be it how we brought spirit and whatever we touched. But most importantly, what we have contributed by way of creativity, the energy that many white artists still try to emulate. The general populace of America continues to be influenced with our spiritual creativeness and the power we put behind it. There isn't any cultural sector that our presence is not seen in. It is just the power of the black spirit, the vitality that makes whatever black Americans do relevant to this society as a whole. Now again, it is just what black folks do. And again, I'm trying not to be culturally arrogant because I know Baba Maulana Karenga don't like that. But, when you see certain things, you just got to give it its due. That's just not, You try not to be arrogant with it. But there is a certain, let's say, assertiveness, a certain consciousness that we bring. And that is something you cannot take away. And that is who Black Americans are. We not only brought things from the mother continent of Africa, but we have embellished and we have created new ways of thoughts, Ebonics, for our language. Our style of clothing, the beauty of how we do things, how we move, how we dance. That's just who we are. It as Sparrow once said, I love to see black people when they make love, either real or on the screen, because they generate so much hate. It's bound to be great. And that's just real, But there was no real message here. It's just one of my observations. But again, thank you for listening. Hit that like button, subscribe, share, leave a comment. But until next time, this is Adisola Bayo saying, may we all strive to bend the arc of justice towards humanity and believe that peace and love can be achieved. Asante Sana.